Hey, I am excited and thrilled and really honored that I've got Mr. Greg McDaniel with us today. I've been a very lucky guy to be featured on Greg and Matt Johnson's Real Estate Uncensored podcast a couple of times,
Yeah.
and just so impressed with Greg's just his take on the real estate business, how he approaches it, and the guy's just an animal and in all areas of the business, and I'm thrilled to have him here. Greg, welcome to the program, my friend.
Jim, dude, so pumped, so honored to be on your show. I've loved the appearances on my show. You just dropped hammer. I mean, this guy's a legend if you guys didn't know it already. And so we're going to talk about some really, really fun stuff. And so I'm just pumped to be here. Jim, thank you, my friend.
All right, man. So Greg, you come from, I know, a background in real estate, but you've made your own mark in this business. So really what I'd love to dive deep with you into today, because you're such a master at it, is really looking at lead generation, but looking at some kind of new strategies, looking at it from a perspective of, the old school calls, because you are a master of calls, but also looking at, some text marketing, Instagram. Let's just jump into it. Video marketing. Let's kind of work up for it. So let's start with calls. So
Okay.
you are a guy, when you read your biography, I think I've got this right. You've made like nearly like 500,000 calls. Is that right?
That is accurate and is climbing on a consistent basis. When I got into the business, I came out of college a complete and total dumpster fire of a human being. Colored hair, earrings, the whole shenanigans, working in a warehouse. I was the grunts. They invented a grunt job for me just to work in the warehouse. And my father's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And so I started, when I finally came over to real estate, he's like, "Greg, you are an idiot. So go out and go door knocking." And so I would go door knocking for probably about 8 hours a day. I would hit
Wow.
about 100 to 150 doors a day. Then I'd
Wow.
come back and write at least 10 thank you cards on our stationery with our brand on and everything else, so that people had nice, conversations. And then I would get onto calls and call into our database and follow up with the people that we already knew. So when it comes to calls and doors, that is working really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. I remember the day that it was a kind of a semi-rainy day. I was walking uphill, and I'd walked so much. I'd literally worn holes in the bottom of my shoes, and I didn't even know it.
Wow.
And my shoes filled up with water, and I I can literally drive you to the street where this took place.
Wow.
And I called my dad on my handy dandy little cell phone. I'm like, "Dad, this sucks." And he laughed at me, and I told him what's going on. And then he brought me in. And then again, he didn't let me go anywhere near a client for the next year because, again, dumpster fire McDaniel.
Right.
I started doing calls, and I started getting on the calls, and I was doing 500 to 750 phone calls a day.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Now, I'm curious. In those days, those days,
yeah, air
was it
quotes.
were you were you using a dialer, or was it all pushing the buttons?
So in the beginning, I was so broke I couldn't afford a dialer, so I
Yeah,
was just doing finger dialing with my meat
yeah,
nugget. Um, and then I was able to afford a dialer, and so then I started doing a triple line dialer. I used a company called Mojo for quite a while, and then
yep.
I pivoted over to Redex with their triple line dialers. Very, very good companies, both of them. I use Redex now, love them pieces. They're absolutely fantastic. And you know what, it sped up my process significantly. So I would do
Mm-hmm.
batches of calls. So I would do a 200, if I was going to do 500 calls a day, I would do a batch of 250, then
Mm-hmm.
go take a break, get lunch, go for a walk, take a drive, get some fresh air or whatever it is, just clear your brain, listen to some like hardcore metal music or whatever you want to listen to, or Tony, whatever. And then I would come back and do another 250, and then do follow-ups, and then jump into my database. So yeah, I mean, it was a nonstop grind. Thank God I'm not
So
there anymore.
when you were doing that, just out of curiosity's sake, who were your targets? Did you have like a super specific demographic target, or was it just geo targeting and be like, I'm just targeting this city, this area, this neighborhood?
That is actually a really good question, man. And so I got a lot in trouble because I would call the same neighborhood so much because there was a just listed, just sold, and people are getting irritated.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Greg, we get it. You sell freaking real estate." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, Miss Stevens. Thank you for having me. Thanks for talking to me again." Ah, shit. And so I came up with a plan. I'm like, okay, I got to grid this out. I got to go by zip codes, and I got to pick and go in a circle, 5-day circle. And so that's what I did. I picked 5 different cities, and then I figure out their zip codes, and then I would call each zip code, and I would pick either a just listed, just sold, and this is the biggest one, Jim. It's the just pendings, because the community can see the just listed and just sold. They can't see the just pending. So that's what I would do. I'd go into my MLS, and I would pick so the zip code I live in is 94596. It's in Walnut Creek, California.
Got it.
And I would say, okay, what is the property that has the highest listing price with the lowest amount of days? And then I would call the listing agent. I would say, hey, I saw your property at 123 Main Street just went pending. I'm actually doing some calls in the neighborhood. Would you mind telling me how many offers you got on that property? Now, sometimes the agent will tell you, sometimes they won't. It really doesn't really matter. But if they do tell you, and I'll call into the neighbor going, ring, ring, ring. Hey, Jim, this is Greg McDaniel with ABC Real Estate. Hey, I'm calling around because the property at 456 Maple just sold. It just went pending. I know you saw it, probably the for sale sign, but it just went pending. And again, this goes back to the agent's going to tell you anything. Did you know that they had 3 offers on the property? Obviously, only one can get accepted. That means we have 2 buyers that are desperately trying to get into the area, and they're crying their soup right now, and they want to buy in the neighborhood. Have you ever thought about taking advantage of the valuations?
Love it.
And so those calls have been incredibly effective with me. The for rent by owners, those are another set of calls I do, and I use Redx for that. And the really unique thing is when they told me that, because they rolled out with it, and they're like, Greg, could you test drive for rent by owners for us? And I said, for rent by owners, what in the blank blah 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 am I going to talk to them about?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, here we go. So I called them up, and I learned really quickly, here's the value for rent by owners. You can either build a relationship and help them get the properties rented, right? If it's not rented, you can then, if they don't want to, if they already got it rented or whatever else, then you can see if they want to either sell it with the renter in there, or if they want to buy additional product to put in their portfolio. So you have a 3-pronged conversation attack with them, and then you just ask for their follow-up information. So whenever they do want to sell that property, you can be the go-to person for them, and you put them in your CRM. And I have a company called Clever Leads that we'll talk to a little bit later about, and that's spelled with a K, about text messages. And it's just a way to bring value to other folks. You wouldn't believe the amount of business that comes out of that.
I bet. Because you're covering both bases, which I love. If they say no, they're not interested in selling, then yes, they're interested in buying. Because every investor is either a buyer or a seller, right? So that's brilliant. I love that strategy.
And
so good.
Birds of a feather flock together. So, I mean, they probably have friends or family members that may be interested in buying or selling real estate as well. Actually, funny enough, I actually got a call yesterday from a guy on that exact strategy. He's like, hey, man, you gave me a call a while back and about my property, and I wasn't willing to sell. And I said, oh, okay, so you thinking about selling now? He's like, you know what? I think we are. I said, great. And so he's like, well, actually, I have 2 properties for you to sell. And it's a 0.88 acre lot on a view, and I have another 40 acre lot that I want you to sell. I'm like, holy sheep shit.
Nice.
That was a good dang call.
Yeah, that was a winner.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, because I had another guy that I was talking to. He gave me a great line, which I've always started using, which is this: whenever you're taking a listing, once you're done, you always say, now, what else do you want to sell? And I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. What else do you want to sell? It's like, I got to start using that. I took a few listings out of that too. I
love that. I haven't used that yet, but I'm absolutely going to do that in the future. I mean, I sat with a guy last summer. It was a Saturday morning. He's a past client. I hadn't talked to him in like 16 years, literally. Helped him buy that property, and he called me up, and we're sitting there talking, and he needed to sell his house. And so I'm like, okay, Willen, not a problem. Let's help you sell your home. And at the end of it, he's like, oh, by the way, Greg, and I should have used your line, by the way. Okay. He's like, by the way, Greg, I have an investment property I need to sell as well in San Jose. I said, okay, so we're going to help you list your $2+ million home. We're going to buy another one, multi-million-dollar property. Then we're going to list your investment property, and we're going to help you do a 1031 and buy another property. Is that what I'm hearing? yes, Greg, that's what, could you help us do that? I'm like, let me check my calendar. Yep.
Yes. I can
I'm,
make that happen.
I'm free. I'm free.
Clear my calendar. So when you're in you're in the beginning stages of your career, you grinded out the doors. Now you grinded out the calls. But are you still making calls? Are you
Yes.
still out there making calls? So it's very interesting, I think, for agents to understand that even a guy like your level, top of your game, is still making calls. And why is that? I mean, what's your answer for that?
Because I mean, a lot of people just want to work off of a referral based network, and that's 100% fine. And we can talk about how to build into that. I mean,
Yeah.
we do get a lot of referrals, but you also have to nurture that. And you also have to fill that that bucket. So, I mean, for those of you that are listening, I'm holding a water jug. That's a 48-ounce water jug here. Now, it's about a quarter full right now. Now,
Yep.
if this was my database and I did nothing with it, I just let it sit there, I couldn't grow. I can only get take away from this. I can't put into this. So
Right.
that's why we do the outbound prospecting, text, email, phone calls, doors, fill in the blank, because like put this under a faucet. I have to fill this thing up on a consistent basis so that it overflows. Once it starts overflowing, that becomes your lead source. And
Love
a
it.
lot of folks just say like, oh my God, my sphere is just going to be my go-to. Yes, that can be the truth, but you need to keep putting people into your sphere so that people understand who you are, what you do, and you can never stop reminding them who and what and how you make your money. Because real estate agents and guys and gals, a lot of us, I mean, that our general public think that, and this is a crude analogy, but run with me on this really quickly.
Okay.
They think that we're more or less movie stars,
Right.
because they see our faces everywhere, and they think we drink champagne and eat caviar for lunch, and we wear our $5,000 dresses or suits, drive our Mercedes or Benzes. We retire in our 120-foot yacht and into the wild west. In reality, dude, we're sweating our rear ends off, freaking the blank out, eating bag lunches at our desks, working 7 days a week, losing hair. Our spouses are just like, what the F is going on with you? Why don't you spend time with me? And everyone's like, oh my God, it's so great to be a real estate agent. You're like, I could trade it any day of the week. But
so true. So true.
all you have to do is remember to fill your bucket on a consistent basis. And that's why making the calls, doing the doors, sending out the postcards, following up the database, sending the text messages, doing the social media, getting out there and being visible is so critically important. The only secret agent that's ever been a good secret agent is James Bond. The rest of us,
so true.
We can't do that.
So for you, is this a part of your daily schedule? Like I've got X period of time I'm scheduling every day. Are you doing this like weekly, or how are you approaching it? I'm just from a time management standpoint.
Excellent question. So with the pandemic that took place, that we're still, all of us are in it at certain different levels. I honestly, I have paused on the calls, and this is why, because a lot of people said, yeah, I want to sell my house, but just don't come over to my house. And I'm like, well, how in the blank does that work?
How's that happen?
I don't know. But actually, since today we're recording on a President's Day, 2021, I'm not calling today, honestly, because I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted. So I'm just taking a me day, right? And I'm doing interviews and doing stuff with you and some other stuff like that. But tomorrow I have my I have my beers in the fridge, and I do a show on my Facebook page. Anybody who wants to follow me, just go to Greg McDaniel on Facebook. Look for this ugly mug and with a giant microphone.
Great show. Yep.
and I drink a beer, and I make live prospecting calls. I do it at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys want to come in and watch and listen and kind of see what I'm doing, please do. And
that's the best thing ever. I've watched Greg do this, and plays hard rock between calls, and it is the funnest thing to watch. I mean, they could make a reality show just out of watching Greg McDaniel make calls. They should, because it'd be super funny. He just makes it so funny.
Oh, you know what, Jim? I'm so glad you think that way, because that's exactly what I was trying to go for, because everyone thought it had to be so stodgy and high and tight, and I have to hit my scripts and everything else. And I'm like, well, screw that shit. I'm gonna drink a beer. I'm gonna cuss a little bit. I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna screw up. I'm gonna get leads, and I'm gonna hopefully empower a few folks to go out there and maybe do the same thing. And you know what? In your instance, it actually, you watched it and you found value out of it, and that's the exact same thing.
Yeah, what's interesting too, I think too, for people that are watching, a lot of people get hung up on scripting, like, and we're both coaches and trainers, and we provide
Yeah.
scripts, of course. But watching you do it because it's now second nature. You're like an actor in this. You can throw away the script. The script is immaterial. The script is so baked into you that
Yeah.
you're just riffing with these clients, and you're just having conversation. Now you have it ingrained into you, but that's really a great lesson for people to watch, is to see the naturalness of how easy it can be and how uncanned it can sound, which I love. So it's great to watch.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And the one thing when it comes to scripts, guys, think about it like this. A script is like a backbone. A backbone has vertebrae, which means there's different points of the conversation that you need to work yourself down. What's attached to a backbone? Ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Ribs are your side conversations. So if Jim and I are talking and I'm riffing with him and he's just like, oh yeah, well, I need to spend more time with the wifey on the boat. You have a boat? What kind of boat? I have a boat. I have a 23 foot Malibu. What do you have? Well, I have this. That's amazing. When did you own it? How do you go out on it? Blah, 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 blah. Now, with that in mind, when it comes time to spending time on the boat, what's your plans with real estate? Do you want to buy a place on a lake or a river? Or, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? So it brings them back to it. So you can go on the tangents, but
Mm-hmm.
stay on your backbone and vertebrae of your questions and thoughts, but have a real conversation with them.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So now let's talk about, for a second, just to pivot,
Sure.
a little bit about texts, because, over the last 5-10 years, of course, text marketing is becoming bigger and bigger. It's been something that I think, a lot of people, when you talk to people that don't even have landlines anymore, they only have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a cell phone, you look at the number of millennials that are now buyers and sellers, which I think the latest numbers, 52% of buyers and sellers are millennial buyers and sellers. They won't answer the phone if they don't know who's calling. So, texting becomes so much more important today. How are you approaching the whole text marketing situation? What are you doing with that?
So I use a company called Clever Leads. Again, it's spelled with a K. And I'll give Jim all the notes so he can put it into the show notes. But I started using them about a year ago, and his name is Jake Wolf, who is the owner and co-founder and everything else, the CEO. He hit me up, and I was like, "Oh, another marketer. Goodness gracious. Okay, I'll have a call with him." Because my brother owns a company called Likely.ai, and I'll explain that a little bit. That's actually another really interesting topic. But my brother Brad introduced me to Jake, and Jake and I started riffing. And a year later, he and I have I've helped him build out his company. And he's like, it was a Friday night about 8 months ago. And it was about, about 5 or 6 in the evening. He's like, "Hey, Greg," he's an old ex-military guy. He's like, "Hey, Greg, do you want to put bullets down range?" I'm like, what the shit is bullets down range? He's like, "Do you want to get leads?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, leads." And so we loaded 124 expireds into his text messaging program. Now, keep in mind, the text message that goes out is 100% customizable. And I do mean 100% customizable. They're going to come back to a follow-up campaign. We do a 4-stage follow-up campaign. I'll explain that in a minute. And it's, again, completely customizable. And then if they can go to your customized video landing page, where, again, down to the colors. The company I'm with is EXP, right? Like you. And I'll tell you one thing, like, the questions were easier of what they are doing versus what they couldn't do. So we load everything up, get everything squared away. We press the button, 124 messages go out. 90 of them land.
Wow.
Within minutes, I was in conversation with up to 50 people out of those 90 immediately, like that.
Like, they're responding back to you?
Oh yeah, my fingers were on fire. Like, I was like, and Jake was laughing at me because I was like, "What the shit, man? I got to sit here for the next freaking 2 hours and respond to freaking people." And he's like, "Well, you want to bullets down range?" I'm like, "Shut up, Jake." So out of that, a lot of people are like, "Well, did you get any deals?" And yeah, I did. I got a $1.8 million deal out of that first run. And I've been actually in communication with her, recently as well, because they have other properties they may want to sell. And it was, if I walked past her on the street today, I literally would not know what she looked like. I've never met her.
Unbelievable.
Dude,
Unbelievable.
the text messaging, I thought it was going to be a complete and total dud. I
Right.
literally did.
Right. Right.
But it has blown my mind with a 40 to a 70% response rate. And I'm talking within minutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So is that a part of your daily now? I mean, you're
Yes.
just doing that every single day, obviously, get that kind of response rate.
Yeah. So we do
Are you
for
doing it with for sale by owners too? Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's what I was going to lead right into that. We're doing it for sale by owners, for rent by owners, expireds. We're doing circled texting around, just pendings, just solds, just for sales. We're actually, my brother who owns Likely.ai, he predicts who's the most likely person to sell in the next 90 days. And he actually just rolled out a new program that he can go in and search through your database, like your Rolodex. He actually did that for me, and I got my first run last week. Came back with a lot of amazing content. One of the funny things is that we're going to take the 63 people that popped into our list at most likely to sell out of our database at over a 50% percentile, and then we're going to go back to Jake over at Clever Leads. We're going to then drop what they call geofences. Are you familiar with
Oh yeah.
geofencing?
Yeah. Love it.
Drop a geofence on them for $2 a month, and own every single one of their smart devices, and then have my VAs start doing calling campaigns into them, and then doing emails and then text messages, and then just setting up appointments. So yes, I mean, there's a lot we can go into here. It's a little bit more complex than the simple question that you asked, but it's
I love it. So
fun.
for the audience that doesn't know, and I don't want to gloss over that because I know I'm going to get a bunch of texts like, okay, what's geofencing mean? Let's explain that just for a second.
Sure. A geofence is an electronic invisible fence, like a network that you can put over any geographic location. So it could be over a single home, it could be over an apartment complex, it could be over a town, it could be over a county, it could be over the state, it could be over the country. Really depends on your budget and what kind of message you want to put out there. And this is the cool thing about it. So for about, if you really want to get ninja on this stuff, you can put a geofence. I don't know where everyone else is in the country, if you guys have open houses or not. Just as a theory, you can put a geofence over, like, let's say you have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet for $300,000, right?
Yep.
Great. Let's go find all of our competitors from 250 to 500, right?
Yep.
And have the same basic, stats on it. Drop a geographic fence on each one of those properties. Every single time someone comes in and out of that house, you can push a message out to their social media and their smart devices. Once that smart device, aka like an iPhone or an Android, goes home, well, now they can cross communicate to all the other smart devices in their proximity. So not only did I infect, in air quotes, infect in a good way, your smart device, your phone, but now I'm going to get your tablets, your smart TVs, your computers, your everything that's a smart device, and I'm going to push ads. And and I can't violate any rules because I'm going to be pushing ads on the sites that you go to, like CNBC, MSNBC, Fox News, sports networks. You fill in the blanks, right? And so I'm going to be omnipresent, and for $2 a door per day, in the devices, not only are you going to see me everywhere, then you're going to get my emails, then you get my social media redirects, then you're going to get my calls, and you're going to get my postcards. Look, you're not getting away from me.
Yep.
And it's all because of the geofence and how to use it. And there's 1,000 different ways to use it. That's just an example.
Yeah, let me give you an example of how powerful that technology is with geofencing. My wife and I we got married 3 years ago. So we're on the beach in Maui, walking down the boardwalk. I have my phone in my hand, and I'm looking, as I'm doing, I'm just scrolling through, and an ad comes up in front of me, and it says, "Jim, you're a realtor who's visiting Hawaii. Would you like to live here and sell timeshares?"
What?
And I'm like, holy hell! How do they know that I'm a realtor? I mean, the tech with that, I don't even know. I can't even kind of comprehend it. But they obviously were able to geofence me in somehow that I was walking by this specific timeshare community, and they were looking for salespeople to recruit to sell their timeshares. I was absolutely amazed by it. It's absolutely incredible.
It's
the
insane.
level of tech out there is sick.
No, it's insane. Like my brother with his company Likely.ai, everyone kind of get weirded out when they're like, "Oh my God, how'd you get my phone number?" I'm like, "Look, fool, that is the easiest thing on God's green earth to get, because he has data sets on everyone." So like Jim, he has one on you, he has one on me, and there's anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 data sets or points that he has on every one of us. I know what political party you belong to. I know how much you donate to them. I know if you have a cat or a dog. I know what kind of car you drive. I even know your VIN number of your vehicle. I know everything about you.
That is crazy. Wow.
And so for them to ping you, oh, dude, they probably just set something up and they're like, any realtor, pull down the list, upload the list, boom, Jim, bam.
Yep, he's here.
He's here.
So I was tempted. I was in Maui. I was like, hey, man, this sounds pretty cool. But I didn't do it. Back in Oregon. All right. So clever leads. Love it. Likely.ai for finding the most likely suspects to pull the trigger. You can run them. You can run your database through them. You can run any database through them, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, you can upload anything. They can run geographical areas for you. So I live in a city called Walnut Creek, California. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, my brother has done this, so I know this is done. He'll pull up everything in Walnut Creek, California.
Yep.
He'll run it through his algorithm. He has data scientists that work for him around the country. He's been doing this for over 10 years, incredibly powerful, winning awards all over the place with KW and a lot of other big companies. And then he'll just spit out a list of a percentile of who's most likely to sell. And I'm like, hold up. Are you telling me my best friend's named Lonnie, and and his parents, I've known them for literally probably 3 decades. And I'm like, I call him Lawn Dog. Yo, Lawn Dog, I got a message here that your parents are thinking about selling. Can you confirm or deny? He hit me up. He's like, yeah, they are thinking about selling. They're going to be leaving for X, Y, and Z reason. And I'm like, what?
That is crazy.
Dude, it is crazy. Nutso pants. I mean, you don't have to work as hard as we used to. We can work a lot smarter.
A lot smarter. Predictive. That's another name for that's predictive modeling. That's like a very high level of that. Imagine taking a whole like your REDX database, for a neighborhood, sending that through, finding the most likely, targeting them, and then your rates of return goes dramatically up. I mean, the power of that is so incredible. It's exciting, right?
What do you think I do?
Yeah, that's what you're doing, right?
I suck down all the people in REDX out of the different categories. I upload them into likely.ai. They pop out a list back to me. I upload it over to Clever Leads. We start a campaign with each one of these people, and then I have 2 VAs, or in that sense, or virtual assistants, guys, over at Clever, and they're only $6 an hour, under $1,000 a month, 40 hours a week, and all they do is set appointments for me.
Wow,
that's it. Off the other data sets. And so I sit around, like, basically I just sit around after doing my calls. I'm not a lazy SOB, but they just book appointments for me, and all I do is just show up and they're all ready to go.
Nice. Unbelievable. That is incredible. Incredible.
Oh, so much fun.
Better than door knocking. Better than door knocking.
Yes.
Okay. Let's pivot again, because you're at the highest levels here when we're talking about really effective use of technology. And I think people would love to pick your brain on this, which is everybody's talking about video. Like, we all got to be doing video, and we all got to be on social media. What is your approach to video and social media? How do you approach it? Because there's a million things out there. I mean, I was just talking this morning on my my coaching call about a new system. I don't think it's not that new, but it's out there now. It's getting some traction, Clubhouse. And you had mentioned it too right before our call. So let's dive into that topic.
Such a easy question, such a long answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so video, number one thing, guys, is I use a company called Viral Marketing, VYRAL Marketing. And they're not the cheapest in town, don't get me wrong. But what they'll do is they'll take your database, and then you have a coach, and then they will help you film, with ideas, and then edit and put music and graphics and launch it out and everything else every 2 weeks out to your database. So you can stay relevant out to your database. That's the one thing I've been doing that almost 6 years with them.
Wow.
Another thing that I'm using is I'm out there and I'm doing, shorts. I'm not doing it today because it's a holiday and I'm just being a lazy SOB. I'm going to admit it. I'm human, okay. Right? But generally I do at least 1 to 2, and that's just my style. My friend Stevie Hahn out of Jacksonville, Florida, go check her out. She's a phenomenal video marketer. And she gets 85% of her business from doing videos, and it's all about doing Instagram and Facebook stories. So I do 1 professional, 1 personal. So it would be like, Jim, like you and I are laughing off air about the fact, like, I mean, I'm not fat, but I mean, I always call myself chunky because it makes it for a funnier story. But I take my chunky ass for a run, and I come back, I'm like, oh, like that was horrible. I just did 4 miles, 200 push-ups, 30 burpees. all right. And people laugh, they clap, they get inspired. They actually send me messages about that stuff. Or if I'm, I had two cats. They both have died in the last year. And
Mhm.
so I used to feature them on a bunch of stuff. And, my cat Bandito would love to show his, posterior, let's put it that way, to the camera.
Uh,
Yeah, everyone would laugh and they want to see them. And so then I would do those, but then I could also go over and there's two different sources that I personally use. One is called Ghost Poster. Her name is Monica Weekly. She's a coach and a real estate agent, absolutely wonderful human being. It's about $200 for the year, I want to say. And they'll
mhm.
send you a funny photo or information graphic or something like that every morning. And then you can post that, or just go to Pinterest, and you can just type in funny real estate graphics or funny real estate photos and just post one of those as well. Like one of my favorites was a photo of a toilet with a full setup, right, in the
Mhm.
middle of a stairwell. Now I knew it's fake, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's just funny,
And I
right?
said, who wants to take a poop here? And then I put a poll, and people that almost 100% no, but some
Right.
weirdos said yes. But it got the
So,
engagement up.
and that's the story. So you're doing two stories a day, one personal, one real estate, funny meme kind of story.
Yeah, and you can do more if you want to. I'm not saying just stay at 2. I'm just saying that
Sure.
would be a good minimum. The
Hmm.
one thing I would not do not always tell me that you're doing real estate or show me your contracts, or people get into grooves. Like there's some people that I know that only show their son or their daughter, like what they're doing,
Yeah.
or they only
Yeah.
show them out selling real estate or anything else. I mean, I had one of my biggest posts on my stories, and I was just messing around.
Mhm.
It was it
Right.
was it was 105 degrees out, and I'm like, "Holy sheep shit, man. I gotta get the blanket out of the house. Like, I'm dying in here." And so what did I do? I took my laptop, I took my phone, I took my notepad, and I went down to my pool. And then I
Mhm.
posted a photo of me, obviously it's shirtless because it's a pool.
Right.
And I just did like a, "Hey, working from the pool, blah blah blah." And I got thousands of views on that. And
Wow.
I'm seeing people from like high school that I haven't talked to in 25 years are watching these
Wow.
stories.
Wow.
And fellow agents, people who commonly watch me, stuff like that. And the reason why it's so effective is because you're being real, you're not being canned.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're being authentic, right?
yeah, you're being authentic, and you can use those short form videos to lead them back to your long form videos on either Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, because YouTube is a search engine. If you put your long form there, which you probably don't want to go over 35 to 45 minutes, because you'll see a huge dip of content there. But I mean, people are watching an average of 13 minutes of your videos there, but they're watching all of your stories, and then they link back to what you're seeing there, and then they're liking that. Well, now there's another hook for you. So I mean, we could go for an hour just on videos, on what
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
kind of on content, equipment, what to say, how to do it. But I mean, wouldn't you agree with me, Jim? I know you coach a lot of people. You're very successful at this. Wouldn't you say just get started and just kind of just go?
My message to everybody recently is record a video a day. You don't have to post them, but just record them,
Yeah.
and then, you'll start getting better and better and better, and you will start posting most of them. But if you just start recording one a day, and, the equipment, our cell phones are probably pretty decent with a mic in most cases to record most of what we're going to try to do. But I agree 100%. It's about quantity and visibility, being at visible.
Yeah, it is. And guys, for any of you guys are like, oh, well, I don't know what mic to get. This is it's about $70 to $80, depending on where you buy it. It's called Rode, RODE, right? It's called a Smart Lav, and it's a lavalier, like those things that you hang on your shirt. And you can just literally plug it in to the bottom of your phone. And now it's going to go from echoey audio with wind and everything else down to almost nearly grade professional audio. And all you have to do is invest maybe $80.
Yeah.
So maybe an option for you. I thought I'd throw that out
Love
there.
it. No, no, that's great. I love it. So when you're talking about platforms, so what are your favorite platforms? You're on Instagram, obviously, but are you still a guy that's out on Facebook? You're obviously on YouTube. Any other platforms that are big for you?
Yeah. So Well, for me, I got a little bit of a different audience. But I mean, for folks that are getting started or want to just kind of get out there and start doing it, it doesn't matter about the size of your audience in the beginning. It's just about beginning.
Mhm.
Um, I, there's, well, shoot. Okay. There's four. And I know this. I know you don't have to pick four. You decide which one you guys want to do and where you want to be represented, and then you execute at a ninja level on it. LinkedIn is incredibly powerful if you want to
Mhm.
be seen on the professional stage. YouTube is a search engine, so if you use there's a free plugin from Google called vidIQ, so VIDIQ. Again, it's free. What you can do is you can plug it in, and then you can do a search. You go up to the upper right hand side and you also the search bar, and you type in Walnut Creek, California real estate, for an example. Great. Boom, pulls up all that stuff. Then you go over where it says filters, click on the filters, most viewed. Great.
Mhm.
Now I have the most viewed. I click on that video. Once I go to that video, I pause it, go to my right hand side. I'm going to come down a little bit. And then with the vidIQ app, you can go down to where it says video tags. You can copy all of those video tags that made that video searchable and why it's number one.
Wow.
Go to your YouTube creator where you're going to edit your video. Go down to your video tags, copy, paste, drop it in, same title, boom, done. You're going to leapfrog over your competition. So
Wow.
I would do that for long form video and stuff
Dude,
like
that
that.
was worth the price of admission right there. Amazing, amazing tip. That's fantastic. I just wrote that down. vidIQ, great tip. So for you, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, those are your
Yeah.
four? Okay.
That's where I would live. There's actually another hidden gem of a secret. Pinterest. You can upload videos to Pinterest and then link those back to your websites. But that's a whole nother conversation for a different day.
Okay. What about Clubhouse? Because we were just talking about Clubhouse earlier.
Sure. Clubhouse is a unique creature. It's only on Apple right now. A lot of you guys obviously know that. It's a double-edged sword. Do you get a lot of people who are just talking out of their bums up there and just want to be heard and have a platform, and they're spitting bad information? But
Yeah.
what you could do, and again, this is with the pandemic, and it go way past the pandemic. Go to your local chamber of commerce, get contact information for all the local businesses in the area, reach out to them and get a consortium of all the local businesses, and then do like different days of different business types. So maybe, fellow real estate agents on one day, you can do the local bakeries, you could do the local restaurants, the local insurance agents, but get the businesses talking to each other through an open forum.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I don't mean this to say this in the wrong way, because you and I put a lot of money into our podcasts. This is basically the Poor Man Podcast, where you can get on there at a zero cost basis to you and become visible. And if you don't want to be that, then get in and join other rooms, raise your hand. They'll bring you up onto stage where you can speak and give your peace of mind. Be short and concise when you're up there. Don't be long-winded. Okay. And if they make you a moderator, add at least 3 to 5 people that could be part of the room. That means the actual moderator and the person who generated the room will bring you back on stage. The more visible you get seen, both in maybe real estate and or whatever your profession is, rooms, then the more people following you, then more people want to jump into the rooms that you're a part of. I mean, I have a gal that I've started following, and dude, this chick is like, she almost has like 500,000 followers on Instagram. I mean,
Wow.
she just crushes it. And I talk smack to her online, just having fun, right? Just bantering with her, busting her balls. And then she and I had a conversation offline, because you're going to link your Instagram to Clubhouse. That's
Right.
where people are going to be able to follow you and message you. And so she and I just started DMing. Then we got on a call, and dude, she and I are laughing our asses off, talking about all kinds of crazy shit. And now we follow each other everywhere, and it's amazing, because you're going to meet people that you've never had the ability to meet ever before on this thing. It
Mm-hmm.
costs you zero, but be very careful. It's addictive.
Yeah. Time suck, right?
Oh,
Like TikTok for older people, right?
oh my God.
The thing about it, which I think you're talking about this too, it's a great way to meet new people that you would never meet in any other format, but also a great way to build your Instagram following. So there's so many powerful ways that maybe it could help benefit a few people that are struggling, especially right now where you have a hard time meeting people sometimes. So it's interesting, but you got to have the iPhone. So
or
that
or
is
or a tablet or
right.
something along those,
Something.
any iOS. I mean,
Yeah.
just something Apple. That's where it is right now. And you can, remember Gmail when Gmail first came out?
Yeah.
You had to get an invite to it.
Yeah.
You have to get an invite to Clubhouse,
Right.
which is fascinating. I just love that. It's like Club 54 back in the day when, the reason they got so big is because they were just a dumpy little club, and all of a sudden they decided to put a red rope in front of their bar and made it exclusive. Everybody wanted to come into the red rope.
Everybody wants to get where they can't be. It's like the FOMO, right? Got to have it.
Oh, dude, I
Yeah,
had that
man.
so bad.
Greg, man, you've dumped a ton of websites and ideas and strategies. I mean, this is incredible. Thank you so much for your time and investment of just giving us a lot of good data here, my friend.
Dude, it's my pleasure. And
Now,
we've taken our baby pinky and scratched the surface. We could go deeper, but I know we got to go on with our day.
but I want everybody to be able to find you and dig into Greg, because you've got so much to offer to people. Where can people like hook up with you and your information?
I appreciate the offer. I think the best place would be to, you can go to Facebook and just look up Greg McDaniel. Instagram, you go Greg McDaniel REU. That stands from the three letters from my podcast, Real Estate Uncensored. And then go follow me on my podcast, Real Estate Uncensored. Go to anywhere where you download and listen to podcasts. Take a look at it. Yes, I do curse on the show. I do tell 10-year-old boy jokes because I find them hilarious. Just because I have a dirty mind when it comes to sense of humor. But I also will give you a lot of tips and techniques and strategies. My interviews, like Jim's been on it, the amazing stuff he's going to drop on the show, and the other guests. That's probably the easiest thing. If you guys have any referrals for the San Francisco East Bay, you can go ahead and just give me a call or a text. My best number is 925-915-1978. So yeah, best way is to get a hold of me. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Greg, thank you so much again. I look forward to having you back on the show very soon.
Rock and roll, brother. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a good one.